Thank you. I will try my best to adhere to the time boundaries. Thank you so much, Chinar Kaur. Thank you, General Pandey. Thank you, General Dhillon. Thank you, Mr. Dhar, and General Vishwas Rao. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here speaking amongst the veterans in their respective fields. It's also, I would say, I'm feeling quite humbled by the fact that there's so many people who are here as informed as I or anybody else in this hall. So I don't think I can enlighten anyone. I don't think I can inform you more than what you already know. But I might bring in a different perspective from what you've been hearing since this morning. I'm going to present two cases before you because I've been asked to speak on drug trafficking and also on the other issue is arms industry. Just last month, I was sitting in a civil administrator's office here in Srinagar. And the room was quite full. We had a lot of people waiting for their respective complaints, which were to be addressed by the administrator. A woman walked in. She was fully clad from top to toe. You couldn't really see her face. And I assumed that she might have some issue related to that particular department where I was sitting in. To my astonishment, the moment she entered, she dropped off her veil and she started speaking in Kashmiri. The administrator was not a Kashmiri, but I think he got the gist of what the woman was saying. The woman was begging the administrator to arrest her son. That came as a shock to me, that how can a mother come and plead the administrator to arrest her son? So the administrator asked her हिंदी में, मैम आप बताइए कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है आपके बेटे के साथ. The woman then started speaking in fluent Hindi, and that again was a surprise to me. And she said, सर मेरे घर पर बहुत ज़्यादा एक मुसीबत आई है, आप मेरे बेटे को उठा लीजिए, पुलिस को बोल के इसको उठा लीजिए. And the administrator obviously asked her, क्यों, क्या बात हुई है? And she said, सर मेरा बेटा जो है ड्रग एडिक्ट बन चुका है, वो मुझे मारता है, अब मैं मर जाती, मैं सुसाइड कर लेती, पर मेरे घर पे एक बेटी है, जवान बेटी है, उसकी शादी करनी है. उसको बचाने के लिए और उसकी शादी करने के लिए मुझे ज़िंदा रहना, नहीं तो मैं अपने आप को आग लगा के मार डालती. So the administrator then listened to her and she explained everything. And she said one more thing. She said, सर मैं लाल बाज़ार से हूँ, वहाँ पर मेरी तरह हर एक माँ आज दुखी है, परेशान है, क्योंकि हमारे बेटे जो है ड्रग एडिक्ट बन चुके हैं और जीने नहीं दे रहे हैं. कोई भी औरत लाल बाज़ार से हिम्मत नहीं करेगी यहाँ आने की, लेकिन मैंने की है क्योंकि मुझे बेटी की शादी करनी है. So that is one case before you. Now I'll read out something that 𝐒𝐚𝐻𝐿 wrote 12 years after 1990. She was at the time correspondent with the New York Times. She visited Kashmir around 2001-2002. And I want to read it out so that you then compare what I was saying just a while ago and what she said 12 years after insurgency, Islamist terrorism broke out in Kashmir. She wrote that she had come with an expectation that she would get to see a Jaffna, a Palestine, a Lebanon kind of destruction. But to her utter shock and disbelief, she didn't find any. Instead, she likened Kashmir to Westchester County. It's a suburb of New York. I have lived in New York and I can tell you it is one of the poshest, richest area of New York. Lined with huge new mansions. The New York Times called this phenomena of Kashmir as border tension, a growth industry for Kashmir. Why am I presenting two contradictory scenarios before you? Lal Bazar woman who lives hand to mouth. Amy Wallman, like most of us, was cognizant, was aware, was struck by the glamour, by the kind of wealth and prosperity that you see in Srinagar or all other major cities of Kashmir in the last 30 years. How is it possible that on the one hand you have women, orphans, widows who are thumping their chest and pleading the government to do something with their lives, with their children who've been led astray, who've been destroyed in the last 30 years, and at the same time you have a Kashmir where people have huge bungalows, you have mansions. It is very different from, say, Palestine. I've been to Israel, I've seen parts of Ramallah, I've seen the kind of destruction, the kind of hollowness that you see in a conflict zone. These things are not compatible. Something else has happened in Kashmir. It doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive. So what has happened? Now I want to tell you, I'll give you some data and you will understand what the connection is between the woman in Lal Bazar and the connection that Amy Wallman made in 2001-2002. The 5 largest arms exporters in 2016-20, that is 4 years, were the United States, Russia, France, Germany and China. The 5 largest arms importers were Saudi Arabia, India, Egypt, Australia and China. Between 2011-15 and 2016-20, there were increases in arms transfers to the Middle East by 25%, to Europe 12%, while there were decreases in the transfer to Africa by 13%, Americas by 43%, Asia by 8.3%. More data, because you will understand why I am particular about data today. Actually, I'm not a big fan of quoting data when you're speaking extempore and when you are addressing a gathering which is already informed. But I'm trying to underline a point here. In 1999, 92% conflicts of the world were supplied arms by the United States. What is noteworthy is that during 1998 to 2001, 68% of arms supply went to developing countries that faced insurgencies and conflicts. What I'm really saying is, a lot of people have been talking about this silent majority since this morning. It's not a silent majority, it's a confused majority. There are only 2 entities or sections in the world who determine our future, who determine our destiny. The top, that's the elite, and the bottom, which is the fodder. Elite versus non-elite. I'm fully aware that this is probably going to hurt many people, maybe outside this hall. But I have to say it. Because somewhere in the world, there's been a certain consensus among the elite that war is good, that conflicts are good, that violence is good. And that idea was sown by America. It was sown by America during the Great Depression. Because when the Great Depression happened, America lost jobs, people were starving, almost starving, and they figured out the only way to sustain and survive is to have conflicts outside America, sell arms, infiltrate countries, developing and underdeveloped countries with arms, with drugs, and that's where you will draw your revenues from. That idea has percolated not only in the developed world, which is the West, but it also went to several other parts of the world. For example, the Middle East. Munib made a very pertinent point, and I think he made a passing reference about it, but I won't explain it. He said, until OIC countries change their approach, their strategy, their policies towards the Muslim world, nothing will change. And that's the key. Somebody has been talking about, in fact, I was again disappointed that so much focus was on Islam, so much focus was on what Prophet said, so much focus was on what Quran teaches. That should not be the focus. We're all rational human beings sitting here. That should not be the focus, because we can think. Human beings can think. We are at the top of the pyramid of living species. We can decide for ourselves. We can come to the right decisions using our own logic and our own rationality. But it's not happening because you've been constrained, you've been driven by an institution called religion. And somebody also mentioned that kafir is not essentially non-Muslims. Kafir is somebody who does not believe. I don't believe. Will you place me in that category? Disbelief does not entitle anybody to slaughter that person. Why is apostasy a criminal offense in Quran? Why? Why is the punishment death for apostasy? We are living in 21st century. We can think. So my humble request here today would be move away from religion and religious dogma and religious institutions, because you can think, take only the best and the most humane aspects of religion, incorporate that in your lives, and the rest leave it out, because that was meant for a different century. Now, coming back to what I was saying, the elite and the non-elite. There was a movie, a documentary which was made, I think, a decade ago. It was made by a Pakistani called Sharmeen Chinoy-Ubaid. And the documentary was about madrasas in Pakistan. She goes with a secret camera and tries to figure out what is really happening in madrasas in Pakistan. She talks to the Maulvi. After noticing and observing that all the kids in the madrasa are being trained for jihad and are being trained for cross-border terrorism in India, and she goes and speaks to the Maulvi that, what are you teaching? What exactly are you doing here? You are creating criminals. You are leading all these children to their death. Why are you doing this? So the Maulvi is unaware that there is a secret camera. He laughs and he tells her ये शहीदों के बकरे हैं, ये बकरे और बनेंगे, बहुत आएंगे, इनकी कमी नहीं है. So essentially, there's a section in the world, there's elite. Elite is always fully aware. You be aware that the elite always knows. उसे पता है कि क्या हो रहा है लाइफ में, उसे पता है ये दुनिया कौन चला रहा है. So the elite is aware. And the Maulvi is part of that. The Maulvi of the masjid, of the madrasa, he's aware, he's part of it, part of the nexus. And he reveals it in that documentary that these can be slaughtered because they are sacrificial lamb. And we will produce more. Let me tell you one important fact of the world. The optimal population of this earth, is 2 billion. Everybody above 2 billion is a waste because it's not optimal for this earth to hold more than 2 billion people. And the elite know this. Whether it's climate change, whether it's resources, fight over resources, whether it's drugs, whether it's crime, all the problems of the earth are dependent on population and resources. So the elite know. And they know that there's a large section, there are almost 5 billion people on this earth who are dispensable, who can be gotten rid of, who can be killed and nothing will change. Lives will go on for those 2 billion optimal population. Therefore, when I say the silent majority is not silent, but it's confused, it's illiterate, it's ignorant, it's uneducated. It does not understand what's happening to it. It does not know how narratives are built, how narratives are created, how... Did I pass my time? Way beyond? I'm so sorry. I think I'm going to end it. I think the gist of what I said, most people would have understood. I'm going to end by congratulating Chinar Kaur once again, because in the last 20 years of my professional life, this is for the first time I'm speaking here on this subject. In fact, for the first time I'm speaking here. And for the first time in 20 years, I'm seeing that there are almost 100 Kashmiri people who have the courage to speak up, who are going to be the instruments of changing the course of Kashmir's history. So the tide has turned. Believe in this. You can change it, because what I'm trying to tell you is, whatever charade, whatever nexus, whatever networks, cultural, narcotics, arms industry, all of it. There were many things that I did not say about narcotics, but since time is short, I'm ending it here. Once again, congratulations for being here. Thank you.